Melisa Nielsen with Waldorf Essentials and Seasons of 7 and melisanielsen.com and Parents in Sync, all the things, right? I'm just Melisa Nielsen. Today we're going to talk about something that, here we are like 6-8 weeks into the school year, and it's something that I'm seeing and I want you to stop it. So I've recognized, I noticed there are a lot of people that are spending so much time reading, preparing, doing all the things that they're not actually doing. And so, yes, I talk about planning. Yes, you should plan. That's why we have this time for planning, right? We have this time for planning that starts like in April and it goes over time. And if you're brand spanking new and you're like, well, Melissa, I didn't plan. I get it. But I also want you to not be afraid. So when you get in the space of like, oh, I have to read everything, I have to do everything, I have to know all the things before I start, I want you to tell you, no, you don't. You don't. You don't need to know all the things. Just start. So bare bones, get down to the bare bones. What is it that you need so that you can start teaching tomorrow, next Monday? What things are those? So truly, you want to know what your rhythm looks like. Like you want to have command of that rhythm. So having command of the rhythm is so helpful because it allows you to know what's happening. It also allows your children to know what's happening. So if you've got behavioral issues in your home, look at your rhythm, because children that have a good rhythm and know what to expect, they generally don't fight with each other or with you. It doesn't mean that they're not going to be snarky, because they're children. That's what they do, right? So that's part of that. But as you're sort of looking at the space of getting started, I want you to not overthink that, but have that rhythm tight. And that means you've got to hold it and you've got to run with it. And you're sort of holding that space for everybody. And I know that can seem like super scary, and it might mean that you just want to just dive into that book some more and not be thinking about what's coming up. But here's the deal. This is a beautiful method of education, but it's not going to come alive unless you stop reading and start doing. So the reading is great. Like getting to know things is great. I mean, gosh, I had this great program, but there's a lot of reading in it, right? There's reading and video content and audio content. We have that, but I also don't want it to keep you from doing. So if you have had this like analysis paralysis, I love that. We in the marketing world, we call it analysis paralysis, when you're like, oh my gosh, I just don't think I can do it. So I'm just going to read some more. So I want you to think about like when you were a kid and you learned to ride a bike. You didn't like read about riding bikes. You didn't ask people, how was your biking experience? You didn't watch 16 videos on riding a bike. You just did it. Got on it, you rode the bike. And then you had this like, woohoo, wow. At first you were wobbly. You may have even fallen. Like I will tell you, the first bike that I bought, and thankfully this wasn't recent, but I was probably 32, 33. So it was more than, well, it was before Eric. So it was more than 15 years ago. I hadn't had a bike in a long time. And I thought, well, I'm just going on a bike ride. My ex-husband had kids and I thought, I'm just going to go on a bike ride. It's going to be awesome. I fell. And it was so bad. When we're adults and we fall, it's like ugly, right? Like we fall and I'm like, I want to cry because my leg was all skinned up. I'm like, nope, gotta get home because I fell on this stinking bike that I haven't ridden in 10 years. So, we get in this space where we overthink things. And that's what I don't want you to do right now with your schooling. Don't want you to be in the overthinking place, in the space of needing to analyze everything. We sort of live in this world right now where there's so much information. There's so much information, and it's great. It's great that there's so much information, but it also can be too much information. So truly, if you decided, hey, I want to do this Waldorf homeschooling thing with my kids, and you haven't started because you've had this analysis paralysis, right now, today, I'm giving you permission. Stop that. I want you to ask yourself, what do I need to start tomorrow, or what do I need to start Monday, so that you can dive in and live it. Waldorf is less about like all of the up here, and it's more about here. So yes, there's the heady stuff and learning the proper, the dogma stuff, right? But at the end of the day, what I want you to focus on is that heart-centered space, the connection with your children, how you connect with them, how you connect with the content, the material, and especially through the grades. It's such a beautiful progression as it lays out before you and unfolds, and how you connect with the art pieces. But you can't do that by reading. You have to do that by doing. So even if you don't have all your supplies, like I talked to a sweet mom the other day, she's like, just been waiting on my main lesson books. And then she's messaged me, she's like, my main lesson books came. I said, and now what are you gonna do? And she was like, well, I said, nope, now it's time to get started. You cannot wait. If you've been waiting on main lesson books or waiting on art supplies or waiting on the perfect thing, I want you to ask yourself, the next time I leave the house to go to the grocery store, maybe I should just sit in the driveway until all the lights are green. Because that's what you're doing. You're waiting too long. You're waiting for this perfect scenario, this perfect space. Oh, my house needs to be clean. Oh, I've got to have my kitchen in order. Yeah, those things are all good. Those things are all perfect. Yes, you do need to do those, but that should not stop you. It should not stop you from the space that you're walking into. So I want you to get started. Stop reading, start doing. So if you love reading, which I know I love, you should see all the books on my desk right now. This is my office space, and I have like all the Steiner books that I'm currently pouring through right here on my desk. But I set aside time for that. I block out time in my week for that. In fact, after I'm done recording videos today, I'm going to sit and spend an hour reading the book that we're doing for our teacher's book study with Seasons of 7, so that I'm ready for that book study this week, and I'm also refreshed in that space. But I have it blocked aside. So I want you to do that. I want you to ask yourself, what can I do to feed that reading thing that I want, that I love? Because there's so many amazing Waldorf books, right? Like you can get lost in Heaven on Earth. You can get lost in Rhythms of Learning. You can get lost in you're just talking about Steiner, Child's Changing Consciousness, practical advice to teachers. I've got it right here. Lessons, so many things, and they're so wonderful, and they feed you and they feed your soul. But you do not need those before you get started. All you need is to know what you're teaching and get busy, and then just stay ahead. If you're ready, you can start school tomorrow, then great, get going. If you're not, then what do you need to do so you can start school on Monday? And do it. Set aside the time. Make it a priority to stop poring over the reading and stop listening to all the podcasts and doing all those things, and instead do the work. Get into the doing space. What are you going to do to have your lessons ready so that you can get busy? I know you can do this. I trust you. I believe in you. And your children need you. You've got this.